Hello and welcome to this edition of Power 5 Picks. I'm Drew Goldfarb, and in this series, we're taking a look at games across each of the Power 5 conferences, giving you our betting picks. Our experts and I will each have a budget of $100 a week, and we can bet it on the spread or on the money line for each of our featured games. We have to bet the full $500 apiece each week, and we have to bet on all 5 games every week. For this show, I'm joined by Taylor Smith and Jim Beviglia. Guys, after Taylor recorded the first 5 for 5 week in this show's history in week 4, I pulled off the same feat in week 5. That earns me the second scholarship of the year, where I don't get paid for the week. All money generated goes to our parent company, but in California, I can at least try to profit off my likeness 4 years from now. So congratulations to me. Jim, counting on you this week to make it 3 in a row. We're going to begin week 6 with the Big Ten. 2 massive games to choose from this week, with Ohio State facing Michigan State and Michigan facing Iowa. After much deliberation, we picked the latter. Wolverines favored by 3.5 against the Hawkeyes, with the Michigan side paying out at -105, Iowa -115. On the money line, it's Michigan at -170, Iowa +150. Jim, get us started with your pick here.
I was surprised to see these teams haven't played in 3 years. I was looking for some kind of recency bias, but not really there. Iowa's unbeaten, and yet they're the underdog on the road, and I think that speaks to the fact that they haven't really played anybody too daunting. Their one close victory was against Iowa State, and that was a game that really went down to the final seconds, could have gone either way. Michigan, I think the memory of them face-planting a couple weeks ago against Wisconsin is still strong, but that was on the road. They're in the big house. I still feel like Michigan has more talent overall. Again, I think Iowa has kind of skated on the schedule so far. They have to go into the big house. And I think the fact that Michigan is the 3.5-point favorite, I feel like the odds makers are almost trying to get you to go the other way by saying, hey, there's an unbeaten team that's favored on the road. So, or that's an underdog on the road. So I think it's leading me towards Michigan. Not very confident about it. I'm only going to make it a $15 wager, but I am going to take Michigan minus the 3.5 points.
Taylor, what about you?
I'm doing the same thing for the same amount of money. Iowa just hasn't played anybody. Michigan has, of course. They've looked bad. They should have lost to Army. I don't think that win over Rutgers really, cures any ills for them, but the line is really small. They are at home. They did come into the season with decent expectations. I still think they should be the more talented team here. Like Jim said, I think the line's kind of begging you and baiting you to take Iowa, but I'm going to resist the temptation. I don't have super, big confidence in it, but I'll take Michigan against the spread.
As you guys were saying, Iowa's an untested team. They've only played the likes of Miami of Ohio, Rutgers, Iowa State, and Middle Tennessee State so far this season. Yes, the Cyclones might be a legitimate test, especially in a rivalry game situation, but still, Michigan has been tested, and they've come up short, barely beating Army in week 2, then getting crushed by Wisconsin in their next time out. Not an impressive performance from the Maize and Blue. These teams do share 2 mutual opponents, with Iowa's win over MTSU being more dominant and Michigan's 52-0 victory against Rutgers beating out the Hawkeyes' 30-0 win against the Scarlet Knights, though Iowa's defense fared better in their shutout effort. Wolverines could still salvage their season if they were to win out and pick up some statement wins along the way. I'm not confident they're going to do it. I might be being baited into this one here, but I'm going to take Iowa on the money line. I'm going to do it for a little bit less than you guys and only put $10 on this game, and let's see what happens. Let's see if the Wolverines can salvage even a little bit of their season this weekend. In the SEC, perhaps the biggest game of the week in all of college football, and it features a pair of teams wearing orange and blue. Florida Gators hosting the Auburn Tigers for homecoming this weekend. I don't know who scheduled that. With the Tigers favored by 3, well, it was the Gators, obviously. They were the ones who scheduled their visitor. Anyway, bad scheduling idea by the school. But anyway, let's move on. Tigers favored by 3.5 on the road. Once again, taking Auburn minus the points pays at -105. Taking Florida plus the points pays at -115. Moneyline has the Tigers -160, the Gators +130. Taylor, who do you like for this homecoming matchup?
So Auburn has just looked legit the last several weeks. The week 1 against Oregon was a little bit rocky, but they got the results in the end. Stomped the Aggies at Kyle Field and then easily beat Mississippi State a week ago. Florida hasn't looked quite as good. They've been a little bit shakier. That win over Kentucky, they required a massive comeback in the second half to get that one done. They are at home, but I think the value on the Auburn money line or the Auburn spread makes sense here. I've done well picking Auburn in the past on this show. I feel like I'm kind of tied to them at this point. I'll take Auburn to cover on the road at -105, and I'm going to put $20 on it.
I think that's a really good idea. I really like the spread payout here on Auburn's side of things. I'd rather give up 3 points and push on the Tigers winning by a field goal, but I'll settle for 3.5 and hope that Auburn wins by at least 4. Auburn, I think, is the most tested team in the SEC right now. They've got wins over Oregon and Texas A&M, neither of which came at home. UF has tough back-to-backs here with Auburn this week, LSU next week. Next week's game happens in Baton Rouge. I don't think the Gators are going to look past the Tigers in this one, this set of Tigers, not the LSU Tigers. I just think Auburn's the better team out of these two. Give me the visiting Tigers to cover the spread, and like Taylor, I'm going to put $20 on it. Jim, how are you betting on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to make it unanimous. So I'm actually going a little bit more confidence-wise. It's how good is the SEC? I mean, this is the game of the week, and we haven't even talked about the two best teams in the conference. You've got Auburn and Florida. Florida, they're doing it with a backup quarterback right now, Kyle Trask, which is more of a passing quarterback than Frank's was kind of a run-pass option kind of guy. Auburn's pass rush is tough. I think you might need that escapability in this game. And everybody talks about Bo Nix, and he's been getting progressively better, and plus he had that amazing comeback win. But Auburn's running game is really good. Jatavius Whitlow leads a deep stable of running backs. And Florida's run defense has been good, but they haven't played anybody the caliber of Auburn. I think Auburn keeps rolling. That win against Mississippi State last week was very impressive, and I think they keep it going. So I'm going to make it $25, and I'm going to also go with Auburn minus the 3.5.
Big spender, $25 on the Tigers to beat the Gators this week. In the Pac-12, the number 13 Oregon Ducks host the 4-1 and unranked California Golden Bears. Cal, a massive 17.5-point underdog on the road with payouts of -110 on both sides. Oregon comes in at -1,100 on the money line with Cal at +650 to pull the upset. I'm up first for this one. And I'm eliminating taking Cal to win straight up pretty quickly thanks to Chase Garber's shoulder injury. Golden Bears will need to turn to UCLA transfer Devin Modster to start against the Ducks. That makes for too many unknowns for me to take a Cal win here, which is at better than 6-1 odds, was something that I was hoping to be able to do for at least a few bucks, maybe 5 or 10. But I don't think the Golden Bears offense will be able to hang with Oregon's production or their defense this weekend. Cal has scored between 17 and 28 points in each of their 5 contests this season. The Ducks have scored 21, 77, 35, and 21, having only allowed 15 points over the course of their last 3 games. I'm going to take Oregon. I'm going to take them to cover the spread, but only for $15. I've got a lot of money left for these last couple games. Jim, what's your pick?
Yeah, the backup quarterback is a big thing. I was watching that game last weekend when Garbers got hurt, and as soon as he got hurt, they became very one-dimensional. Arizona State came from behind to beat them. I don't think you can be one-dimensional like that against Oregon and hope to win. Oregon, I think they're maybe a little bit underrated because they lost that first game to Auburn. We see how good Auburn has been, and it was only a last-second drive where they completed a couple fourth-down plays. I'm still hurting from that game because I had Oregon, so I remember it well. I think Oregon's a really good team. The backup quarterback coming in here. Oregon feels like a top 10 team. I think they can really blow the doors wide open off this one. And so I'm going to go with Oregon minus that big spread, and I'm going to make it a $25 wager on that one as well.
Taylor.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. Backup quarterback for Cal went 5 for 14 last week with 23 yards. He threw a pick in the end zone after coming into the game. So I don't really have a ton of confidence about him going into Autzen Stadium and getting a result here. Oregon, they had that early season loss against Auburn, but they've looked pretty good since then. They should be a contender out of the Pac-12. I'm going bigger than you guys on this one. I'm taking Oregon to cover. I'm putting $35 on this one.
Woo! A lot of confidence in the Ducks. All right, well, as for the Big 12, our featured matchup this week has some pretty interesting betting odds. The Baylor Bears are 2-point underdogs on the road against Kansas State. Taking the Wildcats minus the points pays out at -120, while taking the Bears plus the points pays out at even money, +100. The money line has K-State minus 125, Baylor at plus 105. Taylor, how are you betting on this matchup?
This is the toughest game of the week, I think. I'm a little bit hurt because Baylor ruined what would have been a perfect week for me last week by coming back to win. They're 4-0, but they barely beat a bad Rice team on the road. They barely beat Iowa State at home last week. K-State lost to Okie State last week, so they're not exactly looking amazing either. I don't really know what to do with this game. I'm only putting $10 on it. I'm going to take the best value, which is just Baylor to win the game outright at plus 105. I just feel like I should just take a stab at something because I can't really get a read on it either way.
I feel like the spread here is tricking me into taking Baylor plus 2. I'm not going to take the Bears on the money line here because the number is just too close to be given 2 points. I'd happily give up 5 cents on the dollar to get 2 points back out of this one, to push on a 2-point loss, win on a 1-point loss. Kansas State got doubled up by Oklahoma State last week. They fell 26-13, which is a very strange football score. And I'm not very impressed by their wins over Nicholls, Bowling Green, and Mississippi State. Mississippi State, I know that Auburn destroyed them, but the Bulldogs, not an overly impressive team. Bully, very tough. The mascot on the sideline, glad he was okay after that being run into by an opposing player last week. Anyway, Baylor's 4-0. Even that 2-point win over Iowa State last week, to me, is more impressive than anything K-State has done this year. And I'm including beating Mississippi State in that mix. MSU's biggest win is over Kentucky. I'm going to take Baylor once again. I'm going to take them on the spread because that plus 2 for even money is fantastic to me. And I'm going to put $25 on it. Jim.
Yeah, this game has the feeling of a shootout. I don't know that either defense is that stout this year. I do think that to beat Baylor, you're better off being a passing team than a running team. And Kansas State is more of a running team. Their quarterback, Skylar Thompson, kind of a run-pass guy. Whereas Baylor has a quarterback in Charlie Brewer that I think he's an underrated player. He played real well last week against Iowa State. He's really played well in the last 2 years. I think Baylor just has a little bit better team, but Drew mentioned all the mathematics there that I don't feel like there's a lot of value. I think Baylor is going to win the game, but I don't think there's a lot of value in picking them on the money line. So I'm also going to take those small 2 points there, and I'm going to do that with Baylor getting the 2 for $20.
Wrapping up with the ACC, not a lot of good football this weekend in the Atlantic Coast Conference, let's be blunt, with only 2 of the 4 games featuring even a single team that has a winning record. Our featured game is the only one of those 2 where both teams have a winning record, though neither is in the AP Top 25 this week. The 3-2 Pitt Panthers will visit the 3-1 Duke Blue Devils on Saturday night. Duke, a 4-point favorite. The spread here pays out at the standard minus 110 on both sides. Meanwhile, on the money line, Duke pays at minus 170 for a win, and Pitt pays at plus 150 if they can get the W. Jim, who wins this week's ACC matchup, or do you like the points perhaps?
Yeah, I can make the cheap joke here and feel like I should be talking about Christian Laettner or Elton Brand or something like that as we go to a Duke game here. But their football team has been pretty solid the last few years. They've been impressive this year. A nice win going into Virginia Tech. It's not the Virginia Tech of old, but they really clobbered them. They've got a new quarterback that's have put up impressive numbers so far. That said, Pitt's been very good against Duke. I think they've won 5 out of 6, and they've covered the spread 4 games in a row. I feel good about Pitt winning this game if the injuries weren't a concern. Their top quarterback is banged up. Their top running back is banged up. Don't know if either one of those is going to play. So my confidence level isn't that high, but I feel like Pitt could win this game. So I'm going to make it a low confidence pick, only $15, but I'm going to go for Pitt on the money line with the plus 150 and see if they could win the game outright.
Taylor?
So Pitt has that big win against UCF, and they managed to beat Delaware by 3 points after that. They've only scored more than 20 points once in a game. That was against UCF. Their games have been pretty ugly in general. The defense has been good about slowing the game down and kind of mucking things up. But I think Duke's offense to this point has been pretty impressive. Like you said, Pitt's quarterback's a little bit banged up right now. This has the makings of a pretty ugly game. It's not my favorite game of the week by any means, but I'm going to take Duke with the 4 points. I'm going to put $20 on it.
ESPN's Football Power Index has the Blue Devils as the heavy favorites to win this one, with the matchup predictor giving Duke a 73.7% chance to win. Kenny Pickett, a little banged up for Pitt, Unknown if he'll be able to play for the Panthers as of this recording. That would be a blow to Pitt to lose their starting quarterback, though Pickett has only thrown for 3 touchdowns versus 2 interceptions through 4 games this year. Duke quarterback Quentin Harris is having a fantastic senior season. He threw 2 interceptions against Bama in week 1 with no touchdowns, but has a 10 touchdown to 0 interception ratio since, completing over 75% of his passes since that loss to the Tide. I'm going to take the Blue Devils at home for $30, but I'm going to pick them to win on the money line. Don't know how close this game may or may not be, and with the injury concerns possible for Pitt, I'm not going to guarantee that Duke wins by all that much. I'm going to hedge my bet a little bit and go on the money line. And that's going to do it for this edition of Power 5 Picks. Make sure to check back next week where we'll have another full slate of games and another full plate of picks. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel, and let us know which bets you'd take for this week's games down in the comments below. For Beviglia and Taylor Smith, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.